pines down that also hand dug the canals to float the pine trees to a sawmill. That sawmill was on the next lake. So the canals have been here for around 150 years. And this one has a lot of bamboo. If you look to the right, kind of the largest type of it, although there's a lot of different sizes in here. It's not native to Florida, but it definitely grows well here. And another thing we'll see a lot of is all the stuff hanging from these trees, which is called Spanish moss. Although it's neither Spanish nor moss, so come figure. It's an air plant, technically an epiphyte. And they used it for a lot of things in the early 1900s. They used to stuff mattresses with it, found out pretty quickly it's full of bugs. And that's also where the expression, don't let the bed bugs bite, first started. And of course, this is where I have y'all stand up and introduce yourselves. Now, obviously, don't stand up. Some of you might have to duck, so watch your heads. And this should explain, in case you were wondering, why we don't have tops on these boats. We would love to have tops on these. We just can't because of the bridges and trees we go under. The fern on these branches of this live oak across the canal are green today, but if you go about 3 days in this heat without rain, they turn brown and they look totally dead. And then as soon as it rains, like it did a couple days ago, they turn green again like this. And that's why they're called resurrection ferns. So they resurrect, come back to life. And this is Lake Virginia. One of the first settlers in this area is from that state and named it after. It's a little bigger than Osceola. Rollins campus does start on that road right in front of us. It's called Lakeview, and the town, it really is a good one for driving around, and this is Lakeview would certainly be a good drive. The campus goes almost back to where we came into this lake, so they have right around 75 acres taking up most of the northern shore here. 45 years and saw them often until about 30 years ago, because that is when a lot of the folks living on these lakes who pay a lot in taxes asked the city to remove them and relocate them. And they've done that to the point it's rare to see one. I saw one a couple months ago, as the first one I think any driver has seen in several years. And when they creep southern exposure here on Lake Osceola. And last hour, you see the water lilies, this flower on these lily pads. It was more of a flower last hour. If you look, you can see it's closing up right now. So about the time we get back, you probably won't even see the white. So they open up out of this bud in the mornings, right around 9:30 or so. And then this is the time of day they start closing back up, which you can see I'm doing right now. This canal, you know, they had a bunch of, no pun intended, but they had a lot of bananas in these banana trees, which, but somebody cut them down this week, and so there are just a few left, and that's what we're going to see right above my head, right here. You see a few. Most of the other ones are gone, or all of them are. And this bridge we're going to go under up ahead is a road called Palmer Avenue, and as soon as we go under it, we'll run along a road called Alabama Drive on the right. Just won't see it right away. But we will see part of that on the next lake. And on that drive, there's an old a building that was a hotel called the Alabama Hotel. And that was really famous too. People like Sinclair Lewis and Margaret Mitchell stayed there. It ran its course. It was built in the 20s, but it ran its course in the 70s. And they abandoned it and then converted it to a condominium in 1980. So that's what it still is. It's the Alabama condos. And again, we'll see some of it, but you see it better driving here. This one's about 450 acres. And this building we're running by here on the right side right now is Rollins College Crew Boathouse. And of course, Rollins sits on Lake Virginia, but the crew team does practice and race out here. So this lake's twice as big as Virginia, much better for crew. And then if you look across the lake, past those cypress trees, a little small 1 acre island sits with some boats on it. It's probably full of boats. I was out there with my grandkids yesterday and couldn't find a place to park a boat. But it is a favorite place to go boating here, so that's called Dog Island. You know, Winter Park appropriately has a lot of parks, and to the right, really kind of a favorite one here in town. It's called Craft Azalea Gardens. I talked about cypress trees. They can live a really long time, and the ones here at Craft Azalea are the oldest ones in town. So some of those trees along the shore are close to 1,000-year-old trees. And then also in the park, we've got that little 6-column structure where she's waving at you. These guys are waving too. But anyway, that's called an exedra, and it's really used mostly for taking pictures. But so you guys might want to. But a lot of small weddings are held there, and sometimes short weddings. They don't have any bathrooms over there. You have to speed up the wedding. And there are a couple anhingas drying their feathers up on these trees to our right. Well, back in the canal, I was telling you all how Alabama Drive does that little horseshoe. So it is the road that would take you to Craft Azalea Gardens, and that's where it curves. And so this is Alabama to our right, and the old Alabama Hotel, which is now the Alabama Condos, is the building behind the boats right there, which again, you'd see better driving. If you did drive back here, I drive on this road in front of us, which runs into Alabama Drive, and it's called Via Tuscany, with some great homes. But I would personally rather live in the boathouse than any of these. If I was single, my wife wouldn't do it. And the house to the left of this one, with the black shutters, is the oldest house back here. That was built in 1918, 101 years ago. And the town was sparsely populated, but it had a lot of orange groves back then. So that's what was back here. This whole cove was an orange grove that belonged to the house. And then 2 doors to the left of this one, that house up ahead with the columns, architecturally looks pretty old. And that one is 3.5 years old. So it's really one of the things I like about Winter Park, though. It's a really neat blend of old and new homes here. The newer one, not a bad house, but it also has a guest house on the left, a pool house, pool and putting green on the right, and that's a clay tennis court that's terraced right there on the shore too. That's a good question. So my friend was asking the average price of these homes. Because they're so different, it really varies. The land alone is worth a lot, you know. So I always tell folks, you know, a low end would be $2 million. That's something you're going to tear down. I've seen homes, people buy homes for $4 or $5 million and tear them down. But the high end, right around $12 million. And that's probably what that house back there would be worth. And the average is probably right around the $3.5 million range, something like that.